In this video, Pablo's going to share his sight loss journey and some encouragement. Hi everyone, it's Carrie from Live Accessible, and today I have my husband Pablo with us.
Hello everybody.
He's going to share his sight loss journey and how he went from being fully sighted to totally blind in just a matter of hours. But I will let him tell you. By the way, if you're new here, welcome to the channel. We do videos on technology, encouragement, and tips for people who are blind, visually impaired, and their sighted supporters. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell for more videos like these. So I'm going to get behind the camera and ask Pablo some questions, and I'll let him be in the spotlight. All right, sweetie, so go ahead and tell them a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what your life was like before you lost your sight, and all that kind of stuff.
I was born in Colombia, but being a baby, I went to live in Venezuela. I grew up in Venezuela, so I feel Venezuelan. In Venezuela, I had the opportunity to to do a lot of things. I drove my cars. I had 2 cars when I was younger. Later, I went to school. I have a degree in computers. In the last years of the 1990s, I started to be sick with my kidneys because I am diabetic. I am diabetic since I am 2 years old. In dialysis, they made a mistake with the dose of medication that they apply, so I lost my sight very quick, something like in a couple of hours. I went to sleep, and at the middle of the night I was already seeing everything on my right eye red, and later the left eye stopped working also, so it was very quick.
Medically, what happened exactly?
Well, what happened is that when I was in the dialysis process, I had the blood pressure pretty high because of my kidneys weren't working. So they put a high dose of a blood thinner called heparin. You can imagine with a high blood pressure and a blood thinner, the first part that got damages were my retinas because they start to be exploding and bleeding quickly. It caused something called toxic retinopathy that it destroyed very quick my retinas.
So what did they do once that started to happen?
When this process started and all of this, so I was crossing for 2 different situations. One is that I was needing the kidney transplant, and also I lost my sight. We moved quickly to the United States trying to find a solution for both problems. They tried to fix the problem in the Bascom Palmer, Miami, but it was already late. They couldn't stop the bleeding because I didn't have what is needed to stop the bleeding in my blood. It was pretty bad. The doctor said that this situation is not reversible, but they told me that I was going to be blind from that point in my life.
How did you feel when they told you that it was irreversible?
In the beginning, I was in a kind of shock, emotional shock. I don't remember feeling anything. I was just listening. Probably my brain didn't process the information quickly, and I was like we call shock. Later, my parents when we were leaving the clinic in Miami, everybody was quiet, I remember, and my dad asked me, "What are you going to do now?" And I was thinking, well, what I'm going to do, but I didn't feel in that moment anything. Later, I start to feel scared about what was going to come. So it was the initial feelings that I have. First, nothing, later, scared. I think it is normal, it's understandable. Every human being, when it's facing a new situation, is uncomfortable. It's normal. Sometimes people feel scared, sometimes people feel sad. All these feelings are necessary. I believe that sometimes when I was sad, I replaced the sadness with being mad. And my wife believed that this is pretty easy for me, but I remember that sometimes I try to replace the sadness with being mad. But with the time, I started to understand, well, being mad with whom? I mean, this is part of the life. So is when I made a decision to, well, this is something new, I have to live it because it's what I have, so it's no choice. It's what it is, there's no way to go back, so I have to keep going.
What was the reaction, or how did your family deal with it?
Well, for my parents, my brothers, almost all my family that I had around for those days, it was very difficult. Now that I have a son, a baby boy, I can understand why everything was like that. They were very quiet, very quiet. A lot of silence at home, I remember. Even my family, my brothers, they started to overprotect me a little bit at home. I remember that I was trying to take a cup of water by myself, and my mom was running to give me the cup of water. I received the transplant for those days too, and I had to take a new medication. And my dad wasn't preparing the medication for me every day, putting the number of medicines that I was supposed to take. They didn't let me do many things that I wanted to do by myself.
When you lost your sight, did you receive any training or go to rehabilitation, or what did you do?
When I was declared blind, it was in the United States when the doctors told me that I was going to be blind. So at the beginning I was, as I said before, sad, but later I asked my dad to help me to find training, you know, to be more independent. So I went to the Miami Lighthouse for the Blind, and I received the training that they provide there for mobility, independence at home, you know, like a cooking, like a fixing your room, this kind of stuff, washing clothes. So that is where I received my training, and I started to be more independent, more able to do things by myself. During this training, I understand that blind people are able to do a lot more than what sighted people believe. Remember that I was sighted before, so I didn't know how a blind person was able to cook or to fix the bed or wash clothes or do a lot of things that I learned to do there in that institution. One of my biggest surprises was when they talked to me about computers being used by blind people. I didn't have idea about what was JAWS, or I was believing that I had to use a special kind of computer. But no, they were using regular computers, and they were using the software that I later was taught, and I learned to use it. And I was very amazed because one of my jobs in Venezuela with the degree that I have was developing software, working with networking and this kind of stuff. So I realized that, wow, I am able to go back to work on what I studied for.
After the training and after the treatments, did you go back to Venezuela?
Well, yeah. Remember that when I came to the United States, I had a tourist visa. I wasn't planning to move to the United States because I was living well in Venezuela for those days. I'm talking about, it was before Chavez, or when Chavez just started. When I went back to Venezuela and I tried to apply what I have learned in Miami, being blind, I realized that no, this is not possible. It's not due to the lack of training. It's due to the lack of understanding from the people. People in Venezuela, they are not ready to have blind people being independent or working. I'm not saying that there are no cases, but it's more difficult. It's a lot of times more difficult to do that in cultures that they don't have this kind of experience yet.
So what was the reaction from friends and co-workers when you did visit Venezuela?
When I went back to Venezuela, I noticed that, well, for people, it was very difficult because we don't have friends that get blind very often in our life. It's something that happened not to a lot of people. They have this, not a lot of people have this experience, so they didn't know how to behave, what they're supposed to say. I had friends that just move away. I had a girlfriend that moved away. I have friends that they were pretty close also. They were visiting me. But it's difficult for them. I am not saying that I am excusing them. No, it's just lack of experience, lack of awareness. As I said before, being blind in our countries is a lot of times more difficult than in the United States. We have a lot of opportunities here. We have a lot of understanding here. This is something that probably a lot of blind people in the United States don't understand because they don't know how is the rest of the world. But believe me, I know how is the rest of the world, and here is much, much better.
So did you end up moving to Miami?
I realized that being blind in my country was going to be extremely difficult to be independent, to continue building my dreams, building my path. So I had to make the decision to just leave Venezuela. I had the opportunity to immigrate to the United States, so I started the process and I moved to Miami, yes.
Did you move with your family or was it just you?
When I moved here, my parents came with me, but they didn't move yet. So they were here a kind of temporary condition. So after 2 years is when my parents finally, they decide to move to the United States completely, because when I was already here, they had to go back to Venezuela and they stayed there for a while. Later they decide to move to the United States.
Did you live with your parents when you moved to the United States?
Yes, at the beginning I moved with my parents because a lot of things was happening at the same time. I lost my sight, I received my transplant, I was new being blind.
You mentioned before that your family had trouble adjusting to your blindness. How was that and how did you deal with that?
Well, one of the things that helped me a lot even to myself to adjust to the blindness was the training that I received in the Lighthouse for the Blind. I was able to understand myself that even being blind, I was able to do almost everything that I was able to do before. Later, my parents had to learn that, and I had to teach them that it was possible. So at the beginning, it was quite difficult because they are going to try to help you, to support you. This is something that is normal, especially from people that love you, or that, in this case, my parents that love me. They were doing what they felt it was what they had to do, but I have to continue building my path. When I am saying that it's difficult for them, it's because they are trying to help me, but I need also to learn to be independent. They were trying to do as much as they can for me, but I had to tell them, okay, let me try by myself. Let me make my own mistakes to be able to learn. They were worried about that I was going to get hurt with a corner, with the fridge, or with whatever. But I had to tell them, well, let me get hurt to learn that there is the fridge, or let me get hurt to know that there is that furniture. If I don't get hurt, I'm not going to learn. So it's important for everyone to understand that we are going to fail several times, but failing implies learning. We are learning when we fail. If we never fail, we are not learning. It was very difficult for them because I am their son. So for them it's painful to see that I was getting hurt in a corner, or I was getting hurt on the fridge, on my head, or in my arms, because I am not able to see those things. So I learned as much as possible, but I understood that it was painful for them, and as well it was painful for me. So I took the opportunity that they were going to travel to Canada to visit my younger brother. So I was making a plan with my older brother. So we were making the plan of running away from my parents' home as soon as they started their travel to Canada. So my brother helped me to find a little apartment there closer to Miami Lighthouse for the Blind. It was a tiny, tiny room, I remember. So as soon as my parents left, I just took the train and moved to Miami. I purchased a bed, I purchased the minimum needed to survive. And that is why I started my journey being independent.
What was the reaction from your parents when they came back and you weren't there?
My older brother, he was the strategist at this point. He was already letting my parents know that I moved to Miami, so trying to make them get a little bit more calm, more relaxed with the idea. My brother had to tell them, well, this is something that Pablo has to do to be independent. He cannot be dependent on you because he will not count on you in the future, the day that you will be gone. So he needs to be able to survive by himself. And they understood. At the beginning it was difficult for them, as well it was difficult for me, but it was good for both parts.
Well, I guess they didn't really have much choice.
Well, they didn't have more choice, but look today. Today they are happy. They are seeing that I am able to have a life that is equal than the life for a lot of sighted people. I am married. We have a baby. We own our own home. I got a good job. I have achieved a lot of goals that if I continue living with them, I will not be able to reach.
So what advice or encouragement can you give people who are going through sight loss or just recently lost their sight?
I'm going to talk about two different parts. I'm going to talk about first, your family and friends. Their reaction probably is going to be in a way that you will not like too much. Probably they are going to be overprotecting. Probably they are not going to be doing what you are expecting because they don't know. This is a situation that is difficult for us, but it's going to be more difficult for them. If you have kids and you are losing your sight, for them it's painful. For your wife or your husband it's painful. So try to understand them first. It is very difficult for them. I think it's more painful for them because they are in a position that they are not able to understand first, and they are not able to change. Now, I'm going to talk about our own position in facing this situation. It is difficult. I'm not going to say that it's nice, that it's cool to lose your sight. No, it is not. It's very difficult. It's a challenge. But I would like to suggest that take it as a challenge. Take it as an opportunity to succeed. So every day that you are able to do something new by yourself, congratulate yourself. Wow, I was able to do this before. Try to do things that you weren't able to do when you were sighted. Like, for example, myself, cooking. I was a mess cooking before. I am a little bit less messy now. I am not a good cook yet, but this is something that I have learned, that try to do things, try to congratulate yourself, try to, and think something that is very important. There are a lot of people, millions of people on the world, when they don't have any problem, they don't want to keep going. So it means that we are stronger, we are capable. So keep it in mind, keep going, make step forward, see the blindness as a challenge to succeed every day. Keep going, keep learning. Learning is very important. Well, thank you for letting me share my story.
Thank you for sharing your story, and if you guys have any questions, leave it in the comments below and I'll make sure that Pablo answers them. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up below and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for more videos on how you can live accessible.
Thanks for watching.
And we'll see you in the next one.